Welcome back from the break. You're watching NewsX. Big focus remains on the Prime Minister's Japan visit. PM Narendra Modi met top business leaders on day one of his two-day Japan visit ahead of the Quad Summit 2022. The Prime Minister met the CEOs of prominent Japanese firms who have earned global recognition. The Prime Minister met CEOs of top Japanese companies including NE Siege, Suzuki and Uniqlo. The PM also took part in the launch of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework by US President Joe Biden. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that he sees Japan as an indispensable partner in India's continuing transformation, asserting that New Delhi's speed and scale, combined with ease of doing business, attractive incentives, bold reforms, and ambitious plans, create unmatched opportunities for Japanese businesses. Manish Chand, CEO and Editor-in-Chief, India Writers Network, is joining us live. Ambassador Veena Sikri, former diplomat, is live with us on the broadcast. Madhav Nalapat, Editorial Director of The Sunday Guardian, joins us live. Joyita Basu, Editor of The Sunday Guardian, is also live with us on the program. Ranjit Mehta, Economic Policy Expert, also joins us live. Manish Chand, let me begin with you first on how the day really has panned out there in Japan. The Prime Minister, of course, in a huddle with top Japanese CEOs, industrialists, all of whom we hope will contribute to India's growth story. He also, of course, has addressed the Indian diaspora on what really has been the transformation of India in the last few years. How do you believe day one of his visit has panned out, and what kind of investment will this lead to India?
No, just wait.
Manish Chand, can you hear me? Okay. I am being told we have lost him, unfortunately. Let me get in Ranjit Mehta then. Ranjit Mehta, on the economic aspect of his visit, the Prime Minister, of course, meeting with these top industrialists, Japanese CEOs. How crucial are these companies in India's FDI and growth story?
Thank you, Uday. In fact, India-Japan strategic partnership, in the absence of major strategic disagreements in past also, and we have always a very complementary strategic interest. Therefore, the Prime Minister's visit at this juncture is extremely critical. We have seen that we have made a very vibrant startup ecosystem in India, and in past 7 years we have got more than 100 unicorns. And our focus has been on manufacturing. Therefore, right now, the Prime Minister's visit and interacting with the CEOs and business tycoons in Japan is very critical for both countries. Especially after the post-COVID scenario, how the supply chain which has been disrupted, and when we see when Japan, India was the first country with whom Japan had signed the first peace treaty after World War II. So it's been 70 years, and in last 2 months, this is the second meeting with the second meeting of Prime Minister Modi with the Prime Minister of Japan. Therefore, for Indian businesses also, India offers very attractive opportunity the way we are going for streamlining the ease of doing business, and Japan has the high-tech skills, and they have already invested a lot of money in India infrastructure growth story, such as the Mumbai-Ahmedabad iconic high-speed rail project and other project. And in fact, Japan has been the only foreign country which has been allowed to create infrastructure in Northeast. Therefore, it's extremely critical meeting and very important meeting for both India and Japan, because strong India is good for Japan and strong Japan is good for India.
Absolutely. I'm being told Manish Chand is back with us now. Manish Chand, are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you. Yeah.
Okay. On the Prime Minister's first day in Japan, how do you believe it's gone? Particularly, of course, these crucial economic meetings with top Japanese industrialists, CEOs, and also that key address to the diaspora.
Yeah. So, in fact, Modi, Prime
And
Minister
since
Modi
you're,
just
you're,
finished
you're there, you can give us the on-ground
browsing,
perspective. Since you're there, you can give
starting.
us the on-ground perspective. Go ahead.
So, Prime Minister Modi touched down in Tokyo on a crisp morning here. He was, as usual, given a rapturous welcome by the Indian community who turned out in large numbers at the airport to welcome him. And since then, he had two major events. One is, of course, series of meetings with CEOs of iconic companies, including Osama Suzuki, Yes Bank, and all those Japanese business titans. And then he was at an event along with President Biden and Prime Minister Kishida for the launch of Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, which is in a way a potentially landmark revolutionary arrangement which can transform the geo-economic landscape of the Indo-Pacific region. And now, only a few minutes ago, he addressed the Indian diaspora. And just to give you a sense of the mood, it's like there's one would say, it's complete idolatry, and people really love him here. He's a leader held in deep esteem, deep regard. And you could see that in spontaneous applause, people itching to get a glimpse of him and chanting Har Har Mahadev. It won't be wrong to say that, and I have seen him in different foreign countries at similar events, that he has become a sort of, living divinity for the Indian community who sees him, who identifies with him as a source as a leader who's transforming India, making India great, making India count on the world stage. So that admiration and that respect is quite instantaneous, and it was reflected in this community address which he gave. And some of the important points which he made in his speech to the Indian diaspora was one, of course, about, the deep spiritual bonds that tie India and Japan. And in this context, he invoked thinkers, philosophers like Swami Vivekananda, about the cultural symmetries, cultural affinity between the two countries, how Hindu gods and Japanese gods have each of the Hindu major divinity has a counterpart in Japan. And and also the most important point which he underlined was how Japan has become an integral part and an essential part of India's development journey. And in this context, Prime Minister Modi is meeting with his Japanese counterpart, Fumio Kishida. They'll beside the Quad. There will be a bilateral meeting as well, and there'll be something to look forward to. As far as the economic aspect of the visit is concerned, it builds on, that massive 5 trillion yen financial package which was announced by Mr. Kishida, Japanese Prime Minister, only a few weeks ago during his visit to India. So the real action in terms of diplomacy and geopolitics will be tomorrow, when he has, apart from the Quad Summit, bilateral meetings with all the three leaders of, the leaders of United States, Japan, and Australia. So overall, very intense diplomatic day ahead of Modi tomorrow. And of course, we will be tracking that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me, in fact, also quickly go back to Joyita Basu as well at this point, and Professor Madhav Nalapath, who are also joining us at this point on the broadcast. Professor Nalapath, on the economic aspect first, and then I will get in Joyita to touch on the diaspora address that we've heard as well. Professor Nalapath, as far as, of course, these Japanese companies go, they already contribute a lot to our FDI. With this anti-China sentiment as well, how crucial is this Make in India, Invest in India pitch, particularly to Japan by the Prime Minister?
Well, we have had Ranjit and Manish give some very important points. And I would like to point out, ironically, the three countries that have done the most to make China a superpower economically are the United States, Taiwan, and Japan. These are the three countries that have really worked night and day to make China an economic superpower. And as we all know, that they are all, along with India, right in as a target of Chinese activity, conventional, non-conventional, let's put it this way, warfare. So that is the situation. And I think all three countries have understood their folly, and which, especially so far as Japan is concerned, Taiwan is concerned, they are very clear that India has got to be the new destination. Sorry, there is some kind of an interference. I think if we can just put everything on mute, I'll be grateful. But yes, so as there is so this is the situation today. And let me remind you, even as Chief Minister, Narendra Modi had a very special connect with Japan. I remember, when he was Chief Minister and he made a visit to Japan, as I recall, there was a certain amount of subtle, informal pressure on the Japanese side not to take it as a very important visit. Oh, so many chief ministers are there. But the Japanese side took Narendra Modi as not the ordinary chief minister, but as a future Prime Minister of India, and really rolled out a massive red carpet for Chief Minister Modi. So the relationship between Narendra Modi and Japan has been extremely cordial, a very special relationship for a very long time. And I would again like to agree with our friends that Japan is a very important technology and business partner of India. It's been the case for about half a century now, quite frankly, and it will be the case for the next half a century. And so far as building resilient supply chains, independent of China, are concerned, Japan will be a very, very important component to that. I again repeat, we can look in terms of a situation where you have Japan and Taiwan, for example, and India working together. You have got the United States, Japan, or rather Australia, Japan and India working together, because the problem with the United States is whenever the United States gets into any situation, they want 90% of the benefit and they want 10% of the cost. So that is a problem which is there even in the Biden administration. The difference with Trump was he wanted 99% benefit and 1% cost. Biden only wants 90% benefit and 10% cost. But India, Australia, Japan, Taiwan, India, Australia, Taiwan, I think these are very, very important future alignments. And of course, India and the United States. I mean, American companies are frankly not so backward looking as the administration has been. And they know that they have to have a more equal relationship with a country that's going to be the third superpower. So from that point of view, I'm delighted that Prime Minister Modi has gone to Japan, delighted that he has personally gone to this Quad meeting. I hope the focus is going to be on the Indo-Pacific, on prosperity, a shared prosperity among the democracies, a shared technology chain, resilient and able to basically escape the kind of intrusion and the kind of domination of Chinese technology and other chains. I'm very confident Prime Minister Modi will be focusing on these issues, and I'm quite certain he's going to come back with a massive basket of very important benefits for India and for the partners he's talking to in this future alignment.
Indeed. Joyita, on, of course, your take on these key economic, meetings, but also more importantly, on that address to the diaspora that we heard and you listened to closely, Joyita, and also on the Indo-Pacific Economic Plan and Forum that we also saw, the framework of which drawn up crucially today in attendance of Prime Minister Modi.
Well, Uday, when we are talking about the diaspora, as we have already discussed, it's very important because number one, they're ambassadors. They're ambassadors of India. When you are looking at them, when we are looking at a situation where India is facing 24/7 political warfare, obviously, possibly emanating from China, which does not want India to kind of, find its place in the world. And the thing is, you see, when there is 24/7 political warfare going on, and not just from China, I would say there are many interests, there are vested interests that are working against India. So who are the people who are our quote unquote, if I can use that phrase, frontline warriors? It is this diaspora. If you look at the diaspora that is there in the US, it's in the UK, they are the ones who are actually putting forward India's case to the government whenever there, some kind of lobbying is happening against India. So number one, that is very important. Number two, the investment, because of their connections that they have in these countries. That is one of the reasons why it's very important that the diaspora stays connected to India, stays connected to its roots. And that is what the Prime Minister is talking about whenever he is addressing any diaspora anywhere in the world, and that's the case in Japan also. Now, when you're talking about this economic forum that Mr. Biden has proposed, you see, earlier also, I think sometime back last year, there was this agreement, I would say, in Japan, Australia, and India, they drew up it for some kind of an supply chain resilience. The whole idea is to move manufacturing outside of China. Now, Japanese manufacturing, they have been moving out of China, especially towards Southeast Asia, but they have again started going back to China to a large extent. Now, you see, when you're looking at in terms of, say, the absorption, how much these smaller Southeast Asian countries can absorb. They cannot absorb much. Now, when you're looking at India, it has a lot in terms of land area, in terms of people's potential. India's capacity to absorb big industry is much, much higher than these smaller nations. One of the reasons why Taiwan is also, if their companies are planning to move out of China, they are also looking at India. And Japan also, if its companies are going to move out of China, they are looking towards India. It depends ultimately on what we can do. And if I can, what kind of a system that we can offer them. And you see, if I can also mention about one small point, there's an area that we are not talking about. In fact, we have one of our writers in the Sunday Guardian, Mr. Sunil Chakko, has been writing about this, about Japan's elderly care sector. That is apparently worth about $40 billion. And Japan has a severe aging problem. And that is an area where if Japan and India work together, it will mean lots of jobs for Indian youth. It will mean lots of remittances. So that is an area that I think a lot can be done. And not just we are talking about manufacturing and all.
Okay, let me also, in fact, bring in Ambassador Veena Sikri at this point as well, who's also joining the broadcast. Ambassador Veena Sikri, crucial visit of the Prime Minister, of course, to Japan, 40 hours, power-packed meetings. Your comment on the Indo-Pacific Economic Forum, economic plan, which was, of course, announced today, and the framework of which was drawn out in attendance of the Prime Minister physically, along with the other Quad head of state. There were also other nations' heads of state, including South Korea, who joined in virtually. How important is this? Should India sign up for it? Should we be cautious? And your expectations for that crucial meeting tomorrow?
Well, first of all, I think what has happened today has been singularly significant, because with Japan, the potential for economic cooperation has always been there. We have known that former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was a great friend of India, and he had worked tirelessly during the years he was Prime Minister to bring India and Japan closer together, particularly in the economic field. But somehow the implementation, the attraction of the Japanese companies for India was not there. Even very recently, as recently as March 2022, when Prime Minister Kishida visited India for the annual summit between India and Japan, he has announced $42 billion for additional investment in India. Now, the key is how to get this implemented. This is the key. How do we attract Japanese companies to come to India? And I think in this context, Prime Minister's meeting with these four business leaders, we had from the banking sector, SoftBank, we had from the telecommunication sector, NEC, we had from the tech textile sector, the fast retailing Uniqlo, and then we had from the automobile and auto component sector, Suzuki. Now, these four hold within themselves a vast potential to bring those investments into India, to move their supply chains to India, move away from China in actual terms. So these meetings were really significant, and I think and I hope, judging from the output of those meetings, the readings that have been put out of those meetings, Prime Minister has been emphasizing the ease of doing business in India, the production-linked incentives, and the facilities, the special facilities that he is prepared to offer to these companies should they relocate to India. Suzuki is, of course, already in India in a very big way, and they are stepping up their investments. But we would like the other three sectors to also come in a big way. And this has been a big problem with Japan. With South Korea, we've managed to attract a lot of companies who have moved in a big way. But with Japan, the reluctance is still visible. And I very much hope that as a result of this very significant visit, that these companies will move. We've seen that in China, because of the lockdown in Shanghai, there is a greater awareness of the vulnerability of these, depending on China for the supply chains and for the resilience. So I think there are many reasons coming together for this. The IPEF, the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, is indeed unique because it has the potential to replace the APEC. And I think that's what it's gearing to do, because if you see what has been announced, we have all the ASEAN countries there, excepting Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar. All the other 7 ASEAN countries were there. New Zealand also were there. And then, of course, you also have Australia, India, and Japan added with USA to the IPEF. Now, this IPEF, what has been announced as a program for the IPEF, is very positive, very strong. And I think it should give the ASEAN countries a lot of interest for building into this Indo-Pacific initiative, which is the Quad, where the meetings we will see tomorrow, which will be there. So I think the build-up to tomorrow's Quad, through announcing the IPEF, the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework today, through the meetings with the business leaders that RPM had today, which hold within themselves the significant possibility of realizing the potential for Japan-India economic cooperation, and his meeting with the diaspora, who can very usefully act as a bridge to bring the people here. This has been a very successful meeting so far. Now, tomorrow in the Quad, I think that everybody's going to look at the output of the Quad. Of course, so far, the Quad has been looking at very many different initiatives, including on vaccines, on COVID-19 vaccines, on supply chains, and a whole lot of other facilities, even maritime facilities of movement. I think the security aspect is something that everybody is looking at now. Will tomorrow's meeting of Quad go into the security aspects in any further greater detail? Will some aspects of the security initiative of Quad be highlighted and be developed tomorrow in the meeting? We're all looking to see what kind of a documentation will come out of the meeting tomorrow. We have all seen and we've all been very disturbed by the events in Ukraine, by the Ukraine-Russia imbroglio, and it has really taken away a lot of the focus from Quad, and India is concerned about that. And I think that tomorrow's meeting, the second in-person Quad summit, which is quite remarkable that in such a short period of time, there's the second Quad in-person summit meeting. All eyes are on that meeting to show the movement ahead on the security factor and the movement ahead on implementation of the earlier decisions that have been announced. So this is indeed a very, very major and significant visit for our Prime Minister for many different aspects, bilateral with Japan, with the Indian diaspora, the announcement of the IPEF, and finally the Quad meeting tomorrow, culminating in the bilateral meetings of our Prime Minister with President Joe Biden, with the new Prime Minister of Australia. This is very significant because now we have a Labour government in Australia who has traditionally been known to be much more friendly with China than the Conservative government of Scott Morrison. And so to see what the new Prime Minister of Japan, Australia, and his new Foreign Minister Penny Wang, who is a Malaysian Chinese, what they will say to our Prime Minister, what they will say in the Quad meeting is very, very significant. And then also, of course, the meeting with Prime Minister Kishida will also be there. All in all, a very significant meeting, a lot of outcomes still expected, but today has been a significant day.
No doubt. Okay, let's leave it at that. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us. We've run completely out of time. Let's take a break.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.